Okay, you can all hear. Let me see. Come. Apology on our side. It's not all. Most of those who follow this, yeah, they can hear it. Yeah, perfect. Most of you that follow us actually are sitting in your offices or in your sofas or beds or out on the beach or wherever. But thankfully, we have some people in the room as well. These 2 hours are going to be dedicated to the Marie Curie Actions Individual Fellowships, the call for 2017. My name is Per Magnus, point for the Marie Curie Actions, and so is my colleague.
My name is... Oh, technology again. My name is Berit Sundby Avset, and I'm also a national contact pointer, NCP, for Marie Curie Actions.
Yes. So we have quite a comprehensive program during far too little time. So I think we'll just jump into it. As always, I apologize to those of you who have heard me before, or heard Berit before, but there is a certain limit to how different we can do it every time. But then again, I think a certain degree of repetition is actually quite good. For those of you who are completely new to the Marie Curie Actions, the individual fellowships, the EU framework program Horizon 2020, you need to listen, and you need to you don't have to make a note of everything, because we're going to publicize these presentations, at least ours. We need to ask permissions from the other ones. We'll do it afterwards. And we will send all of you who registered a link to where you can find the presentations afterwards. But I think we'll just start out. Just to give you the background, the framework program Horizon 2020 is the research and innovation program of the EU. And the European Commission funds research over 7 years at a time. And the framework program is structured basically in 3 pillars. One that focuses on the societal challenges, one that focuses on to create more leadership of enterprises and industry in Europe, and one which is focused on the excellent science side. And this is where you find the Marie Curie Actions here, together with the European Research Council, Future and Emerging Technologies, and the support for and use of research infrastructures. The Marie Curie Actions have a couple of overarching goals. It is to support career development for researchers, especially starting researchers, and the training of those who have a little bit more experience in all scientific disciplines. Absolutely all, except for those which fall under the Euratom program. It's about mobility, transnational mobility, and also, to a certain extent, intersectoral mobility. And the budget of the framework program is 73 billion over these 7 years. And for the Marie Curie Actions, the budget is almost 6.2 million euros. A lot of money.
Yeah, but maybe we should just explain what we mean by intersectorial. Yeah. Because very often we are sort of dividing, what do you call the work, or into different sectors, and that's sort of a political speak or bureaucracy speak. And one sector is normally the academic, so that will be the universities and the university colleges, research institutes, and so on. And then we have the private sector, or that's industry, small companies. And the third one is very often what we call the public sector. So that will be the government, hospitals, schools, museums, and so on. So that when we say that in the MSCA we support intersectoral mobility, it's really that it also should be possible to do part, either it's about research, but that you can go and do research in an industry, or you can be associated with a museum or a public sector. And they also encourage, even if you are going somewhere to a university, that maybe you want to do parts of your project in a private company or in the public sector, because very many people who would like to work in or foresee or hope that they would continue with research at the university, that's later on you decide to do something differently, or you have to. So that's just to get experience from other.
Yeah. And basically, I mean, most of those who take a PhD actually end up not in the academic world. And the Marie Curie Actions have built their training programs in order to train you for this second life, which may not be in the academic world. What is also important to mention is that the Marie Curie Actions are completely bottom-up. So it's all up to you to decide the topic of your proposal. The Marie Curie Actions consists of 4 different actions, which actually include more sub-actions. The biggest one is the ITN, the Innovative Training Networks, which is support for training PhD students or early stage researchers. This consumes approximately half of the budget of the Marie Curie Actions. You also have the RISE scheme, which is mobility support, intersectoral within Europe, or international, also within this sector outside of Europe. And the co-fund action is not for most of us. It's basically for funding organizations. But you should also be aware that a lot of organizations, including the Research Council of Norway with its FriPro Mobility Grant, is co-funded with the Marie Curie Actions. So you can actually apply for funding from these organizations who have been successful and get a grant and still be a Marie Curie Fellow. This is support both for doctoral and postdoctoral training. And you find all these positions and fellowships at the Euraccess web page. We will have the...
we have a link to
yes.
at the end of this presentation.
Yeah. But the individual fellowships, which is the topic of today, has been announced in April, as most of you are aware of. And it has a deadline on the 14th of September this year. And preferably, you should submit any proposal a lot earlier than the 14th of September. Let me see. The budget is... Yeah, we'll get back to the budget, I think, and its breakdown.
Yeah.
There it is. For 2017, the budget is 248.7 million euro, which is a lot of money. And out of these, 33.7 million is dedicated to the global fellowships, meaning those who travel outside of Europe for a stay. And last year we had this pilot panel, the Society and Enterprise panel. And this panel has a dedicated budget of 10 million euros. This is for those of you who wants to stay in a non-academic environment, because they don't compete as easily with high-level institutions, academic institutions, so it has its own panel. And these almost 250 million euros will hopefully fund approximately 1,300 to 1,400 proposals from next year. Okay, what is the individual fellowship? Well, the objectives is to enhance and enhance the creative and innovative potential of experienced researchers, meaning that the European Commission wants not just to give an ordinary training, but to give something else. And this something else is something that we will get back to later on. But it's basically meant for experienced researchers. And you are an experienced researcher as soon as you have a PhD. If you don't have a PhD, you can still take part if you have more than 4 years of full-time research experience at the deadline on the 14th of September. Another objective of the individual fellowships is also to acquire new knowledge, to be allowed to work on research projects in an European context or outside of Europe, because we also want you to go outside of Europe to our, let's say, competitors out there, because Europe is competing with other nations. And if you go outside of Europe, you have also the opportunity of coming back, or you don't have the opportunity, actually, you are obliged to come back, but then you get paid for a year. There's also a possibility, which is not very much used, to resume a career. Well, it's basically used a lot, but it's not that easy to get. And to return to Europe.
I think we have an overview later. So.
Yeah. And it's aimed at the best and the most promising researchers. So this means it's a lot of competition. It's kind of hard to get them, but it's possible. Some of those who apply, they need to reapply, to resubmit. This is becoming more and more common in EU research these days. It doesn't only apply to the Marie Curie actions. We see it in the ERC, we see it in other open generic programs, that the competition is really hard. And this is why it's important for you to get trained at an early stage in the proposal writing, and to realize that most of the words that we use here, we actually pick out of the work program and the guide for applicants. And it's no coincidence that we use these words, because we want you to use these words in your proposals. It's about recognition, it's about answering all the expectations that the European Commission and thus the evaluators have to your proposal. And of course, importantly, to participate in the Marie Curie actions, you can be of any nationality. So if you want to recruit a researcher to Europe, you can be of any nationality. The researcher can be of any nationality. If you want to go outside of Europe, there are certain rules regarding having lived for or being a long-time resident of Europe, etc. You can just fill me in whenever you feel like it. Yeah. Okay, I already said this. if you are in doubt, you can contact us, or you can contact some of the very good EU advisors at the different institutions. But some of you may be coming from a private company or a small college or whatever, and you may not have someone to call, and then we are the ones that you should contact. Also, if you are outside of the country, I think some of those viewing the streaming are from outside of the country, in fact. There are two funding streams: European fellowships, which means that you can go from Norway to another European country, a member state of the EU, or an associated country. I think there are 12 associated countries to the framework program as of today. Norway is one. So the associated countries are basically as member countries. Norway, Switzerland, Iceland, Turkey, Israel, several of the Balkan countries.
Mm-hmm. There is a list in the guide for applicants.
So then you can stay in another European country for a minimum of 12 months or up to 24 months. We see the later years, we see that almost everyone is applying for full-time, 2 years. So,
I think we sometimes have Norwegians who are applying for only 12 months to go abroad because they, for various reasons, cannot or do not want to stay abroad for more than a year.
Yeah.
But the standard applications in the individual fellowship is for 24 months.
Yeah. This is basically because Norwegians are not very mobile, and they look upon this country, the happiest country of the earth, as a place that you leave for a short time and then you come back, which is of course good, but not from a research policy point of view, because we want Norwegians or researchers in Norway to go out to Europe, to different countries, and get new knowledge, and then eventually come back. Okay, that's the way it is. And if you want to go, let's say, to the United States or Australia or New Zealand or Canada or
China?
Any country. Yeah, China, any country. But I mentioned these 4 countries foremost because this is where I think 95% of all those applying for global fellowships are going. Then you can use the global fellowships. Be aware that if you are going to some other country, you need to perhaps argue a little bit stronger why this is necessary to go there. I mean, it says it's completely open, but when you look at the evaluation criteria, the transfer of knowledge, the building of networks, it is perhaps easier to argue for this if you're going to, let's say, one of the competitive countries like the United States or Australia or something. So you really need to argue very good if you are going to other countries outside of Europe that are not among these top countries. Yeah, we need to hurry up. Yeah. In the European fellowships, your proposals will be evaluated in 4 different panels.
Well, it's actually the standard. There are sub-panels in different fields, but you have to select in the beginning if you want to are applying for what we call the standard fellowship, which is going somewhere in Europe for this period of time, or if you want to have a career restart grant, which is for people who have been out of research for a minimum 12 months. And the idea is that to give those people, and it can be for, you've been outside research for whatever reasons, you had a child, you worked somewhere else, you were unemployed, but it's for a chance for those people to continue as a researcher, because if you haven't done very much the past year or two, you might not really be competitive when it comes to publications and so on. And then it's, should I use this one perhaps? Yeah, sure. Reintegration grant, and that's for people who have stayed outside Europe for a period of time, but who wants to come back to Europe and do research here. And finally, there's the Society and Enterprise panel, and that's a special panel if the host institution is something which is an institution which is not academic, it's not university college, or a research. It's for any nationality, like for the standard fellowship, and the same for the career restart. But if you want to apply for money to reintegrate into Europe, it means that you must have a nationality from a member state or an associate country, or you have to be what it's called a long-term resident. And a long-term resident is somebody who has been in Europe for a period of minimum 5 years consecutively and doing research. And there are similar, and then there are, but I think we can just go on, perhaps.
Okay.
And then it's the Global Fellowship, which has, I think you're going to what you call a third country, and a third country sounds a bit strange, but a third country is really a country who is not a member state of the European Union and is not an associated country to the framework program, the Horizon 2020. So all other countries are third countries, and that's where you go outside when you're in a global fellowship. But you also have a host organization at somewhere in your months. And here you also have the same rules, that either you're a nationality of Europe, we say it very shortly, or a long-term resident. And there are also some rules for how long you can have stayed in the host country before, in order to be eligible.
Yeah.
So, for instance, if you want to go to the US and for your global fellowship, it means that you cannot have stayed more than 12 months there during the past 3 years.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I suppose that some of you might have downloaded the guide for applicants. Some of you are resubmitting a proposal, so you are quite familiar with this. But basically, the typical activities of an individual fellowship is, of course, mobility. This is the raison d'être of the European Union for funding this to a certain degree. And the main bulk is focused on the research and training activities. Both the training through research, but also more, as we say, hands-on activities, learning new techniques, learning how to handle infrastructure and instruments, getting trained in those skills which are called transferable skills. It's important that when you have finished your individual fellowship, that you are not only good at the science part. You may be excellent in the science part. That's not the sole goal of the individual fellowships. You also need to be trained in communication skills, in skills when it comes to handling property rights. languages, culture, how to deposit data. I mean, a lot of skills which are needed for you when you are an independent researcher. The individual fellowships also allows for secondments. And this is something that the European Commission introduced in order to so that it would be easier for you to get a flavor of other institutions and other sectors. Now, I think a European colleague found that approximately 1/3 of the proposals also have a suggestion of a secondment. So it could be good. I mean, in certain fields, it is almost obligatory. If you do research on a field which is quite applied, for example, and you really need to see how can this develop further in the industry, then you should have a secondment in an institution, preferably outside of the academic sector. But a secondment can also be in the same sector. And if your fellowship is shorter than 18 months, this secondment can be up to 3 months. If your fellowship is longer than 18 months, then it can be up to 6 months. I mentioned this. This European college has said that approximately 1/3 of the proposals had secondments. So you don't have to put in a secondment. It doesn't give you extra points unless it's really meaningful. It has to be useful. And the secondment can be even in the same country. Other activities should, of course, also include the management of your own project. You should really be the boss of your project. I mean, you need to have your supervisors go on this, but this is training. And not the fun part, probably, but it's necessary. I mean, let's just realize it. All of you, if you intend to be researchers, you will have to apply for funding and you will have to run projects. So the earlier you get the training, the better.
And also, I mean, that's something which is really useful outside, if you're not an academic researcher later on, but if you start to work for another company or wherever, some way of managing your work tasks, managing other people, and so on. Yeah. That's really very useful.
Yeah. Another activity which is very important in the Marie Curie actions and in the individual fellowships is the part that goes on communication. Or these are actually 2 activities. Communication to the greater society of the benefits of your project, of your research, which means that you're actually going to tell the taxpayers they're getting their money's worth. The other part is the dissemination activity, which is also about spreading knowledge about your research, but to your peers. And you really need to think of having plans for this, because the evaluators will look at your proposal and say that, okay, this is good, but it's kind of random. There's no plan. So you need to have a dissemination plan, and you should also have a communication plan in your fellowship. And if you work within areas which have gender issues related to it, you should also include training on these issues in your project. And this thing called a personal career development plan, it's foreseen. It's not foreseen, you're not supposed to deliver a career development plan in your proposal, but you need to describe the delivery because it will be one of the first deliveries to the European Commission, and you need to know what's going to be in this career development plan. Yeah, and you can find just one example. I mean, this can be done in several ways, but you can find one example on the Europa server. Okay, this is perhaps the fun part. at least a bit funnier than the reporting thing. You will receive funding which enables you to have quite a good life in Europe. When it comes to the other way around, if you attract someone to Norway, the funding may, well, I mean, the euro currency is quite good these days. So nowadays, it might be fully funded, because in Norway, all institutions, at least all public institutions, will pay for a complete postdoctoral level salary on the level of other, a tariff level. Mm. So this is basically what you get. Yeah.
Well, this is basically what the European Commission pays to the host organization, really.
This is not what you get.
Because from the so-called living allowance, that's going to cover not only the salary for the researcher, but it needs also to cover all the taxes and the social security deductions. So by the taxes, we also mean the income tax. So this is sort of the starting level, and then it is reduced. And it's also, we have a country correction coefficient, which sort of adjusts the living allowance for the different countries. So that's this part. And it's you can find it in the back of the guide for applicants or in the work program, the exact coefficients.
Yeah, and the correction coefficients, they reflect the cost level in the different countries. And not surprisingly, Norway has one of the higher ones. If you go to a country with a lower correction coefficient or a lower cost of living, you will get less.
Yeah. And in addition, there is a mobility allowance, which comes on top, and it does not have this coefficient factor or correction factor. And in some countries, it will just be put together with your living allowance, and you will just see one sum when you are paid as a researcher.
This is basically what is done in Norway as well, actually. Yeah.
And the family allowance is only paid to those who has a family, who has a spouse or children. Yeah. Then there are some institutional costs, which the host institution are getting for covering the costs related to research, training, and networking for the fellow. That's 800 euros. And then some management and indirect cost, because the institution will always have some costs related to PC light. You want a desk to sit at, you want to be able to use a phone and the internet and everything. So that's supposed to cover those costs. Yeah. And we have some, I think we have to do them very fast, but we had some examples of how you can calculate what all these correction factors will end up with in different countries, and also depending on how many months. But this is a budget calculator which you can find on the Net for Mobility website.
Yeah. Just be aware that it says without correction coefficient here, but this is not correct, is it?
No, I think when we looked at it before the meeting, we said that no, this includes the correction coefficient.
This has been produced by our Turkish colleagues.
Yeah. So we had one example for the UK and one for the US, and you can look at them, or you can just go directly to that page. But there's also explanation in the guide for applicants how you can calculate it. And for the Norwegian institutions who are hosting fellows, you can use the same to calculate how much. But then we also have, because at least when the exchange rate between euro and Norwegian kroner was a little bit different, then the money that we got from, or a Norwegian institution got from the EU was too low to cover all the costs. But the Ministry for Education and Research has decided that the universities can use this, what is called rekrutteringsstillinger, or money that they are getting in the basic grant to cover these positions, can be sort of split into smaller parts so that they can top up finance.
So all of you who represent larger institutions, universities, colleges, etc., you can go to this bevilgningsbrev, this funding letter from the ministry, and at least in quite many of the university letters, on page 8, there is a sentence about this, that you can split these rekrutteringsstillinger for topping up. And the institute sector can use this stimulation activity STIM EU in order to do the same. Those who represent private institutions and hospitals, we don't have anything for you. Sorry.
Finally, just going to say something for those of you who are planning to go abroad from Norway, because we have a top-up financing from the Research Council. It doesn't cover everybody, because the aim is really to stimulate people who has not yet been mobile. So it covers two groups, but relevant in this case is really for the MSCA individual fellowships. In order to get the top-up financing, you must have a PhD from a Norwegian university, and then you must have spent at least 5 of the previous 8 years in Norway. And I just made it a little less grey, because this also applies for PhD students who go abroad on the ITN network, but that's for another meeting. And you can, if you succeed, you can just send in the application to us at any time for the top-up financing when you have the letters from the Commission, and there's the link to the call. And I'm just going to say a little thing about statistics and results, because you might wonder who are applying for these schemes. And the Commission has made a curve. Okay, I'm sorry, when you're sitting in the back, you can't really see very much. But this curve shows the success, number of applications and success rate, depending on how many years it is since you did your PhD. So the top is for those who got their PhD within the last year. This purple is applications. So they've just sorted it. So when you go, there are people who are applying who it's 10 or 11 years since they did their PhD. The oldest fellow, these figures are from the Horizon 2020, and the oldest fellow or researcher who got a grant had 42 years since he did his PhD. But I mean, that's really a very extraordinary example. And similarly, if you can see, or you can have a look at it when you get the slides, there's the red curve, and that shows who are successful. And the form of that curve is rather similar to the curve of the applicants. So it's really, it is, in essence, it's really a postdoc scheme for those who have rather recently done their PhD, although you can apply at any age. We have the results from last year's Marie Curie Individual Fellowship, and this is with a Norwegian host institution. Okay, I have to stand here. The orange bar is the success rate for all countries. In 2014, it was close to 18%. And then it has decreased because there are more applications. Last year, there were close to 9,000 applications sent to the individual fellowship. The red bar, that's the success rate for Norwegian applications, our application to Norwegian institutions as host institutions. So it was not very good in 2014. It was really bad in 2015. But in 2016, it's a lot better. It's actually higher last year for Norwegian institutions compared to the overall success rate. So Norwegian or people applying to Norwegian institutions has really learned how to write applications in the last years.
May I just add that, I mean, it's hard to say why is the success rate getting better. At least one of the reasons why we believe is the fact that eventually Norwegian institutions are beginning to use the individual fellowships from the Marie Curie actions more structurally in the way that they actually do these events on beforehand where they invite postdocs that have sent their CVs. I know that I heard that the University of Oslo will do this now, and the University of Tromsø has done this for a little while, and we will listen more to it afterwards. But I think this idea of using this in a more structured manner is also making the proposals better. We get a better cooperation between the supervisor and the fellow, which leads to better drafted projects. Okay.
Yeah. And this gray curve here shows the number of applications from Norwegian institutions. So it was, less than 100, increased. And last year we had 148 applications from Norwegian institutions. So that's more applications and a higher success rate. So this is really good. We made a news article some months ago, and we have a little bit more information on the PDF file there. So, but you can look it up, and this is the link to that news story. Okay, how to apply? First of all, the proposal should be prepared by the researcher together with the supervisor. I think that's really what are making a very good proposal when they are interacting and discussing what should we include, what do you know, what do you want to do, how can the various people in the group that you're going to help to make this a successful project. And if you're new to this, you will find all the information that you need at what's called the participant portal. And that's a web page which is set up by the Commission, which has all the information from all the calls that exists in Horizon 2020. And what you need to do is to go to this link, and then you have to look for, choose the funding opportunities, you choose the Horizon 2020, then you click on, you want the Marie Sklodowska-Curie actions, and you will see this part, which shows this is the call for the individual fellowships this year. And we will not go into this participant portal because I don't think we have time for it. Okay. But you will find the guide for applicants, which is really the Bible for anybody who's going to write an application. It's about 60 pages or something and has all the details. It can also be very useful to look at the Marie Curie work program for 2016-2017. There's also guidelines for how you really submit your proposal, all the detail, the IT tools, and so on. You will find the proposal template where you're writing your application, the description. You can also find an evaluation form, because you can ask somebody to sort of do what you call the mock-up evaluation, so that they can give you, if you have maybe a present supervisor or something, can read your application and sort of, okay, what are the good parts, what are the bad parts, so that you can improve it. And there is also information about what comes afterwards, the grant agreement template, which is really the contract with the Commission. And, and information on the evaluation process, how it goes on. And it's from this part that you submit your proposal. We have mentioned some of the panels that you choose. And you choose, we already mentioned the career restart, reintegration, society and enterprise panel. But if you apply for let's say, more standard European fellowship, or you want to go out of Europe on a global fellowship, you also have to choose which topic your project falls within. Life science, is it economical science, is it chemistry, and so on. And one other thing, because you have to choose that very early on, and then there are also some, it sort of looks very complicated, but the past few years they're asking you to give some descriptors of your proposal. There's a whole bunch of them, and there are rules for how you're going to put it up, but it's really a way of describing the topic of your proposal. And it's for the Commission to pick the right evaluators for your proposal. So you should make sure that these descriptors or the keywords are really representative for your proposal. Okay, and the proposal consists of two parts. It's part A, which is sort of a lot of administrative information. It's electronic forms at the participant portal. If you are a researcher or looking to go somewhere, you will probably going to need help from your host, or you will need help from your host organization to do those things. And fill out the form. Yeah. But of course, what will be evaluated is the project description, which consists of two parts, and it has document 1 is really the project description. What are you going to do? How are you going to do it? It has a very strict page limit of 13 pages, and 3 are sort of obligatory starting pages, and then 10 pages to describe what you're going to do. And there's a document 2 which contains CVs, a little bit more information about the host organization, and so on. Okay, I think we'll just skip the part of part A, with more details. But we just have this slide to show. Emmanuel is going to talk about the view from the evaluator later on, and I think you have a similar view of this slide. But I just want to point out that the Marie Curie actions, you're getting a score. They are evaluating the excellence, and the evaluator are giving an impact or a score. You are evaluated by the impact and the quality and efficiency of the implementation. And then there are all these sub-parts. And you need to structure your project description in a similar way. And this is really to make it more easy for the evaluators to understand and to be able to read many proposals and compare them.
And you need to, you really need to answer all the criteria which are actually also the headlines of the proposal part B1. And as you can see, the excellence part is weighted to 50%. But this is not just about scientific excellence. This is also about the capacity of the researcher, the quality of the supervision, etc., etc.
We just made a calculation of if you get various types of scores on these type of on the 3 criteria and how high up you end. If you get 4 on each of the criteria, which means that this is very good, you will only that means sounds really bad that you only get 80%. But there are so very many good people out there who are writing very good proposals. So in order to get funding, you really need to have somewhere more than 90% or 90 points. If you get 5, which is excellent on everything, then you get 100. Yeah. Okay, ska vi bara hoppa över? Yeah. Okay, the part B, you have the start page. It's obligatory. You have a table of contents, page 2, and the list of participating organization, page 3. And then you start on page 4 to 13. You are writing about the excellence and the impact and the implementation. And you have to stay within 10 pages.
Yeah.
Anything you write on the page after that, page number 14, will be disregarded. You will not read it.
Yeah, and it's so common to receive proposals to look at just the day before the deadline, and they have 11 to 13 pages. And, it's so hard to cut. I mean, it's cutting the flesh of your baby. So, start out by writing less and keep it that way, because you need to put yourself in the place of the evaluator. And they're not supposed to, they are allowed to look at this, but they're not supposed to look at these excess pages. So you're doing yourself really a bad favor by writing more.
And I think we will just go...
Yeah, we'll just skip this one, because this is something that Emanuel will go through as well.
Yep.
Just one thing. Some of you may resubmit, and you may have received this new seal of excellence, which is very good, but you're not supposed to mention this in your resubmission. It's kind of strange, but this is the way it is. So don't mention your seal of excellence in your resubmission, please, because the evaluators are supposed to disregard all that kind of information.
Okay.
Okay? Okay. We really need to hurry up. You will receive, or this is the timeline of the call. The deadline is on the 14th of September. The evaluation will be in October, November. You will receive information about the outcome approximately late January, start of February in 2018. And the indicative date of the first signing of grant agreements will be in May 2018. And you also, it is possible to postpone the proposal. You can set a start date, which is, I think it's in September 2019 at the longest. Yeah. Just some good advice that we have gathered up through the years, having read and helped a lot of individual researchers and supervisors with the fellowship proposals. Nothing in the guide for applicants, nothing in the work program is there in vain. I mean, everything has been thought through, and there are people in the commission, and they look at each and every word. So don't just shrug it off. You need to read it, and you need to understand it. Do describe everything, because the evaluators may come from a system which is not like the Norwegian one. So even though you think that having access to internet is self-evident, it's a human right, it's not, because the world is not like it is in Norway. If you feel that the headlines are irrelevant or are repeating themselves, you need to address it, and you need to look at what criterion am I answering something under? Because if you're supposed to describe infrastructure, it's different within the scientific excellence part and the impact part and the implementation part. So you need to address everything. Consider the well-being of the evaluators. Don't be boring. Try to make it more lively. Don't you agree, Emmanuel? Yeah. So you can use figures or illustrations. And you can actually put in web links. They're not obliged to look at them, the evaluators, but they may have a peek. Yeah. You want to?
Yeah, I just mentioned before that it might be a good idea to have somebody read your proposal when it's almost finished and pretend to be an evaluator to sort of see if they understand what you want to do. And of course, as always, we say that you should write part B and put it aside for some time and take it back up and read it again, because then maybe things weren't as clear 2 weeks later as when you wrote it at the same time. And that's something that people like us say all the time. We know that you're busy. We know that things are very often finished at the last minute, but it's really, really a good thing to be early. And you can submit it very many times. They will evaluate at the application which is there at the deadline. And it's also very good because all these, I mean, even if you have not completely finished your project proposal, I mean, you can submit everything else, or you can submit something which has not the complete proposal, the complete contents of the part B1, but you still see that it works, that it functions, that it's some last-minute fault that you have placed in the part A, which I've forgotten to fill out, and then you don't have time to figure it out the last hour or something. So make sure that the formalities are okay.
Yeah.
And
here's a couple of relevant web pages for you. This is the Euraxis web page, where you can find all sorts of co-funded fellowships or positions in I mean, not just the Marie Curie Actions, ERC projects, etc. So you can have extra opportunities. We would also like to highlight the Net for Mobility web page. This is the network of national contact points in all over the world, actually.
Yeah.
Because there are national contact points for the Marie Curie Actions in at least 50 or 60 countries. And this network has produced this web page, and you find something called the documents page, which consists of different initiatives by NCPs. For example, the rough guide. What's it called?
Yeah, the rough guide for the
Survivor's
Guide for IF applicants, which was made for the call last year.
Yeah.
And I'm not quite sure if they're going to make an updated version for the 2017, but not that much has changed, so it will be useful.
So use your EU advisors at the institutions. They're really good. And if you want, or if you don't have the access to EU advisors, or you have some questions to what we have said today, feel free to contact Berit or myself with emails or phone us. And I repeat this thing that I always say, that we are measured on your success. So we really want to help you. So, and we don't bite. So contact us, please. Now we're going, jumping ahead to some colleagues. We're not leaving it open for questions right now. So if you have any questions, we can take them afterwards. We need to go on with our program. As I mentioned, the Universal initiative, the Arctic IF, in order to recruit better individual fellows. And Therese Michaelsen will present their experiences. Yeah, you're coming alone. We also have your colleague Torbjørg here, but I know that you will present this on your own.
Like that? So that's okay.
Og så har du den, og så kan du peke den.
Okay, thank you so much, and thank you for the invitation. My name is Therese Michaelsen, and together with my colleague Torbjørg Roarsdottir, we have initiated a program called Arctic Marie Curie EF program at our university. It's called the Arctic Marie Curie program. It's not restricted to research within the Arctic, but it relates to the name of our university, the Arctic University of Norway. Okay, so the aim of the program is to recruit and support excellent young scientists from outside to have a Marie Curie fellowship at our university. This is for the incoming Marie Curie fellows. We previously had an undersubscription every year to the Marie Curie fellow scheme, normally 1 to 2 applications a year, and very typically the fellow candidate contacted the supervisor, let's say 2 weeks before the deadline. Could you please be my supervisor, write your name on the application, and obviously that doesn't give a good success rate. So actually we just had one granted Marie Curie fellow at UIT before we started this program, and that was in the last framework program. We were inspired actually here at Lysaker from this FINS initiative at NTNU from Professor Torsten Hammann, had a presentation 2 years ago. And also the university in Copenhagen, Københavns University. They have a similar initiative. What is different with our program is that it's open to all the scientific area represented at UIT. Something? Okay. Oh, yeah. This is open to all the scientific areas represented at UIT. It's administered at the institutional level. So we started this first time last year. So this is now we were in the second round, the 2070 round. The structure of the program is like this. So we start November, the year before the call open. We start to call for supervisors. That is normally professors or associated professors working at UIT. And we ask them to write 1 short and 1 long project description. We are not very strict, so as long as the budget can take it, we welcome everybody. And it's up to the faculties to decide who they want to support and not. But normally, most of them are supported. And we are preparing for each of the supervisors. We are preparing an individual Euraccess ad, which goes out open before Christmas. We ask the applicants to write a 2-page project description, which complements and strengthens the project proposed by the supervisor. So the short project description we ask for, we have it in the Euraccess ad. The long one, we have created a web page where we describe the whole program. You can find it at uit.nu/afu/Arctic MSCA. We describe the program, we describe the eligibility criteria, we have all the relevant documents in that page. And also we have a list of the supervisors with links to the Euraccess ad and also link to the extended project description so that the applicants can read the long description and really get into the project to ensure that there is a scientific match. We ask the applicants, we have the deadline for the applicants is in February. All the applications are sent to us, and we just forwarded at the deadline, we forwarded unsorted to the supervisors so that they do the screening of the applications. And they, of course, they are guided in how to do it. It's mainly, of course, based on excellence. And then they do the selection. After they have done their selection, normally we let them invite 1 candidate. But if in occasions they have 2 very excellent candidates, we do allow for that as well. Even 3 if it's like that. And then when we have the proposed list of applicants, we go through their CVs to quality check that these are, in fact, not only eligible to apply for the Marie Curie Fellowship, but also that their CV can match the project. And then we send them the invitation, the formal invitation. We forward the necessary information to the travel agency who arranges the flight tickets and hotel reservations. And that is for the main event, which is in May, the Arctic Marie Curie Symposium. We'll come back to that in the next slides. This is where the supervisor and the future fellow will meet. And prior to the symposium, we have a supervisor's workshop. This is to prepare the supervisor for the symposium, because they are also the hosts of this symposium, and to ensure them that they know what the Marie Curie Fellowship is all about, and to ensure that they get the most out of the 2 days during the symposium. So the symposium is, as I said, goes over 2 days. The first day, the fellow candidate meets for coffee with the supervisor, the 1 hour coffee break, where they are, of course, allowed to talk about whatever they want, but they are handed a list of questions that we want them to go to, which are Marie Curie related questions, so that they can start preparing the thoughts and ideas for the proposal. And then we have an open workshop which spans the whole day on how to write a successful proposal. This is given by an external consultant. This workshop is not only open for those who are in the program and we are trying to recruit to UIT, but this is also open for those at UIT who plan to go abroad on a European or global fellowship. After the open workshop, we invite them for dinner, and we even take them for a trip to the cable car to hope that they see the charm of Tromsø. Yes, and the second day we have it's more or less up to the candidate and the supervisor. Then they have individual scientific meetings, so the candidate can see the facilities, the infrastructure, meet the others in the research group, and so on. And they are this day they're also provided with a list of things we want them to discuss, and we also ask them to fill out a one-page kind of mini proposal where they have answered every key elements in the Marie Curie proposal. Of course, at the possibility at that point. Of course, it's not. It's only on the beginner stage, but still. So this is to ensure that when the candidate goes back to their home country, they have a good start of the proposal. So they have agreed on the key elements. Okay, so after the symposium, we had this year's symposium we had last week. So now they have all went back home again, and they have 3 months for proposal writing, and we have deadlines in early August for getting their proposal pre-evaluated, both by an external consultant, but also by us. We have also we went through all of the best proposals from last year's program, and also, of course, all the evaluation summary reports. So getting a fairly kind of good view of what is necessary to succeed. And of course, we do help all of them with the A form. So we didn't have any formalities last year, and we're planning to do the same this year. And as you know, the deadline is September 14th. So this is the numbers of the last year's program and this year's program. As I said, last year was a pilot. We were planning to have like 4 or 5 supervisors that we could kind of test the program, but it was a huge success actually from the first time. So there were more than 30 supervisors volunteering to join the program, and we got a lot lot of applications. There were 146 applications altogether, spread on all the supervisors. But last year we didn't ask them to write a project in the application, so we got a lot of unspecific applications. So we did, this year we asked them to write these 2 pages just to kind of get rid of the unserious ones. So last year we invited 31 candidates. They were spread on 17 nationalities from all over the world, as you can see below. And out of the 31, actually 2 or 3 of them, after the symposium, the supervisor said that, okay, this is probably not going to be a good project, so let's just withdraw from the program, and that's okay. And then we lost a couple of as well during the summer because they didn't defend the PhD in time. So we submitted 26 proposals altogether from this program, and 3 of them were granted, and we got 1 on waiting list, which we think is a okay number as for a pilot project. From these proposals from last year, the 10 best of those who were not granted will be resubmitted this year. So this year we had 38 supervisors, so even more than last year's. We had less applicants because what I told you, that we were more picky with that they had to write this project description. We invited 31, same as last year, and they were spread on 22 different countries around the world. Okay, so what was the lesson learned from last year is that it's obviously very necessary to have a strict selection of the candidates. We asked them to write this project description, and we also go through their CV. We also have this, as I told you earlier, these guided meetings between the supervisor and the applicant. And we will have a closer follow-up towards the deadline so that we ensure that everyone gets there in time. And we will, of course, resubmit because, as you said earlier, the resubmissions are probably the ones with the higher success rates. So the impact for our university is, of course, that we got more granted Marie Curie projects to UIT, but also we got a lot of the scientific network was extended for the supervisor. Most of those who applied for the program were unknown to the supervisors from before, which we think is a good thing. Some of them had already a candidate, which is also, of course, okay, as long as they don't have too many co-publications and so on. And actually also many of the very good candidates we had from last year but who didn't succeed, they are now already employed at UIT on other funding. So the research group has managed to take care of them, waiting for resubmission or other funding. And I think one of the most important aspects of this program is that it has lowered the EU thresholds for many of the supervisors. Many of them had never applied to EU before. And this is like an easy way because we're holding their hands from the beginning and all through the way to the deadline. So we're hoping that they will advance to other EU projects later on. Yes, that's all I had.
Thank you, Teresa. I think it's great to hear that institutions in Norway start to do things the way those who are successful in other countries in Europe are doing as well. And I think doing it this structured way is the only right way, really, in order to have a lot of success. I know that, your management, director, etc., wants success. I think this is the best way to try to achieve success. Let's hope that you will be even more successful next year. And let's hope that some of you out there representing institutions in Norway also will include this idea of doing it this way. Okay, a little thank you for you and Torbjørn.
Thank you so much.
It's an umbrella. I don't think you need it right now because I got an email from a colleague of yours in Tromsø today, and she said it was snowing. And in my experience, I mean, going up north is for the tough ones, isn't it? Yes, yes, it is. Okay, thank you again. As I said when we started, this interactivity is somewhat tough on me. I also realized that we have live chat on our web streaming, and because I'm beginning to become an old man and technically not so good at this, we got a couple of questions. What does training on gender issues mean? Just very fast, I will not say what it means, but I will remind you that if you Google science with and for society, SWOFs, and gender, you will come directly to the EU website where gender issues are research, and you can learn a lot, and you will get an edge when you write your proposal with a complete answer to these gender issues. I mean, especially if I was a female evaluator, I would have my antennas on whether people answer this question or not. The second thing, let me see, was if you apply the same proposal, well, yes, that's the idea. It's not the same proposal because you need to fit the objectives of each scheme, but you can use the same project. And the reason why we have designed the Free Pro Mobility scheme very much like the IF is because we want you to have double chance of going abroad. Okay, next we have Emanuel Babatunde from the Research Administrative Department of the University of Bergen. Emanuel has been around for a lot of years. I remember meeting you when I was a lot more younger in Bergen, and you were at Havforskningsinstituttet, the Marine Research Institute. Now you are at the University of Bergen, but you are also an evaluator. And especially that part we would like to hear a little bit more about.
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much, and thank you for inviting me to this section. As you see, my name is Emanuel Babatunde. I work currently with the University of Bergen at the Research Administrative Office. And then I also have responsibility for the Marie Curie program at the university. So I'm sort of, instead of an NCP, I'm an LCP, which we call Local Contact Point. So, I mean, for the program, for the Marie Curie program. And a little bit about this evaluation thing. I've been an evaluator since 2004. That was under the 6th Framework Program. And it was through the same Per Magnus who encouraged me at that time to register, which I did. And then I was invited to do my first evaluation in 2004 under the 6th Framework Program. And that was when it was called incoming and outgoing fellowship centers like that. Today, I mean, the program has progressed beyond that. And we have come now in Horizon 2020. So I went through the 7th Framework Program too, and then the new program, which is the Horizon 2020. So I've been doing some evaluation for the first 2 years, I think, of the program. So already they have told you much about the program, so I'm not going to go into details about what the Marie Curie program is about, what you can do with it, who's going to apply. I'm going straight into the evaluation process. And what I've done here is just to pick up what is in the guidelines for application and then try to go behind the scene to see how the evaluators interpret some of these key issues that have been mentioned in the guidelines. And because, at the briefing section for the evaluators, we are told giving more detailed information than what you see in the guidelines. And these are some of the things that I'm going to mention. So I'm not going to go directly into the main points, but then try to go behind and then give you some key points that you take with you. The rest you can read for yourself. But one of the key things that Per also mentioned is about the summary, when you are writing a summary of your application. Don't forget that is the only document that the evaluator has. At the time that they are going to select whether they are capable or competent to evaluate your proposal, that is the only one they have. They don't have access to the whole application. The only one they have is the short summary and then the keywords that you have mentioned. So this is very, very, very crucial when you are going to write your application. Make sure the summary is detailed enough, at least gives a vivid background of what exactly you are going to work on, and then the topic areas, so that then it is easier for an evaluator to be able to say, okay, I can evaluate this or I can't. It's very, very, very important for you to remember that. So now we can go on. This is from the guidelines for applications. Like Per said, we have the excellence section, the impact, and then the quality and efficiency of the implementation, and then we have the other key points under each of them. And as you can see, the weightings are different. But then it is very, very, very important for you to answer every section in detail. You don't leave anything for granted. And like Per said, when you are writing, write both for an expert and for the non-expert when you are writing. Don't make any assumptions here that somebody knows this or knows that. Explain every keyword, so that, because most of the time the evaluators are not complete experts in those fields that they are evaluating. Maybe they are generalists. Maybe if you are an economist, maybe you are doing something related to microfinance or whatever. But then you are capable of evaluating all economic papers. So you may not be an expert in another area, but then you can evaluate it. So it's left to you as the researcher, to be able to explain. Don't use jargons, too many jargons and terminologies that cannot be, understood by a generalist. That is very, very key. Because when you do that, then you make the whole thing boring, and then it becomes a little bit difficult for the person to actually disseminate what exactly you are trying to talk about. So please remember those things. So now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to take this, and then we'll go through them, and then see how fast we can go through. And then the scoring, as you can see, is from 0 to 5, and 5 is the best. 4, and in the Marie Curie, what is special about the Marie Curie scoring is that you are allowed to use all the decimals in between each of the scores. So you can use 1, 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, up to 4.9, 5.0. In the others, you jump. It's from 4, 4.5, and 5, and so on. But in the Marie Curie, you are allowed to use. So the finest score, just 0.1, can mean a difference between getting funding and not getting funding. So it's very, very important you don't leave anything to chance when you are writing Marie Curie, because you have the chance to make, because the key here between in the other programs where you have 4.5 and 5 is so big. But then in the Marie Curie, it could mean a lot when you get 4.7 and somebody gets 4.9 or 4.8. The difference could be what determines who gets funding and who doesn't get funding. So always remember that. So these are the excellent, and this is what you see in the guidelines for applicants, or the evaluation guidelines. But then what does these things, key issues here, mean? What does quality and credibility of the research innovation project, what does it mean? The quality and appropriateness of the training, quality of supervision, and capacity of the researcher. What does this all mean? To an evaluator who is, or what you are looking for in the evaluation process. So the first one, the quality and credibility of the research, level of novelty, appropriate consideration of inter and interdisciplinary and gender aspects. I'll talk about, somebody was asking about gender, and I'll just say something very quick about that later. But then when you are writing your proposal, we want to see what is the state of the art today. You have to know that this is your own field, because this is a bottom-up program. So you have to tell us where we are today in that scientific discipline, where we are. And then what is your research going to do? Are you going to take us beyond that state of the art? That is what we want to see. That's the innovative aspect. We want to see that you are going to go beyond where we are today. That's what you want to learn. Because if you are just going to repeat the same thing, then it's not interesting. So we want to see that, okay, your research is going to go beyond the level where we are. And then the research methodology, first of all, of course, you have to tell us the objective. So the objective is what is going to tell us whether you are going to go beyond the state of the art or not. And most people write the objectives, and then they write the research methodology, and the two don't coordinate. Relate your research methodology to your objectives. It should be related. You should connect the two. You are going to do this. Okay, this is the method I'm going to use to achieve it or to do it. That's how you explain that. So there must be some correspondence, coordination between the research, the objectives and then the research methodology. And you should list this clearly. The research objectives should be clear. The methodology should also be clear. Don't assume anything here that, okay, this person knows that, okay, we can use assays to test that. No, say it. Tell the evaluator that. And then originality and innovative aspects. So you have to show that you are also going to contribute to knowledge. You are going to learn something new that will contribute to development of knowledge. So this is very, very important. And where interdisciplinarity is important, please mention it. Mention which other subjects, which other disciplines that you are going to combine to make your research or your project a little bit better than what we know from today. Then the gender dimension. This has always been a confusing thing when they say gender. Most people deal with, or say, okay, maybe I'm going to employ more women or more men or whatever it is. That in this particular instance, the gender issue relates to how your research will have impact on the different genders, or whether it's going to have more impact on the male or the female and things like that. So if you are going to do with something like breast cancer, for example, then we know that it's going to, the majority of those having it are women. So then it will affect more, your research will be more related to women than the other gender. So always remember that. So we are told here that the objective is to assess how the high quality novel research is the most likely to open up the best career possibility. So you have to show that you are doing something new. You are breaking through. And this is going to open an opportunity for you as an individual, because the Marie Curie program is an individual program. It's just for you. It's about you. It's about your training and career development. So we want to see how will this break you through the cloud for you to come out on top as one of the best researchers. So this is the key point. So you have to be able to relate this project to yourself as a researcher. Then the second one says the quality and appropriateness of the training and of the two-way transfer of knowledge between the researcher and the host. Take this point clearly. It's a two-way transfer. That means that what you as a researcher you are going to acquire from your host institution, and then what you are also going to give back. Or what you have learned that you are also going to give back. And most people have problem explaining what they can offer. But then mostly, this is through training. You can, if you are a postdoc, you can supervise students, you can teach, you can hold seminars to master students, to PhD students, and then impact your own competencies to those students. That's the other way. And then the most important one is what you yourself you are going to learn from the host institution. Why? Because that is the first thing that you have to think about. Why do you choose the host institution? It's because they have certain things that you lack or you need to get your career through. So you must be able to bring this out clearly. You are going to learn new methodologies, new techniques. You are going to use certain laboratory equipment. All these things, you have to bring them out. And then all the complementary trainings that you are going to get, academic, research-related, that will help push your own research up. This is what you are supposed to bring out. This should come out clearly in your write-up. And then how these organizations, of course, will also benefit from it. That is what I just mentioned. And then for global fellowships, you have to talk of both sides. when you are coming on the return phase to how much you are going to impact, because you are going to learn something from there. And when you come back, you have to mention how you are going to impact this new knowledge to your former organization. Then the quality, this is about your supervisor. I mean, to choose, you have to choose the right person who is the best in the field, if possible, and then you have to say why this person is the best in the area. So you have to talk of the level of experience of the supervisor in the topic, his or her track record, including publications, international network that they are going to expose you to. They have collaborators elsewhere that you are going to be part of. All this you have to bring out clearly. And then another one here is the integration of the experienced researcher. It's not here we are not talking about infrastructure, but we are talking about how you'll be integrated into the group. That's how you'll be part of your new organization, your new institution. What positions will you be offered? Will you be given some teaching appointments? Will you be given some supervisory roles? Will you be taking part in certain projects? Will you be introduced into the network of the researchers that have been at your new host institution? That is the integration process. So you have to mention all that. How you will be exposed to an experienced researchers network of fellows, colleagues, peers, conferences, seminars, and things like that. This is what this topic is all about. The integration of the experienced researcher within the host organization. So for global fellowships, you consider both phases. Then the capacity of the researcher to reach or reinforce a position of professional maturity. I mean, when you finish your project, what happens? You have to be able to tell us, what's the exit strategy here? What are you going to do? Are you going to form an independent research group? Are you going to be form your own team? Whatever. You have to have some ambition beyond being a postdoc or working under someone. This is your chance now to be independent, and you have to show how this training is going to give you that independence, and that is what we want to see in this particular one. So applicants should demonstrate how their professional experience and the proposed research will contribute to their development as independent, mature researchers during the fellowship. So you should show that now you are the best person in this area because you can combine now 3 different disciplines to do what we're doing, maybe taking 1 year to do, now you can do it in 3 months. Then you are making a breakthrough here. So you must be able to show that. It says here that you don't need a career development plan, but then, like Per said, it's always implied in your own ambitions. I mean, what you plan to do in future is always implied, but that now it's not more a requirement that you have to show that career development plan. Then the impact. There are 3 issues under impact: enhancing the potential and future career prospects of the researcher, quality of the proposed measures to exploit and disseminate the action, and then quality of the proposed measures to communicate the action. This is where most people relax. I mean, after writing the scientific area, part of it, then they get to this part and then they relax, write just 2 paragraphs and then just leave it. It's always painful to see somebody getting like 4.95 under excellence and then messing up completely under impact. I mean, most scientists just neglect this particular side because they think it's not necessary, but you need it to get funding. You need the impact side to get funding, and it's very, very equally important, and we'll see why. The first one is about enhancing the potential and future career prospects of the researcher. You are supposed to explain the expected impact of the planned research and training on the future career prospects of the experienced researcher after the fellowship. So you are supposed to describe the added value. What is it that you wouldn't have done or gained if you hadn't had a fellowship? You're supposed to explain that. Which new competencies and skills will be acquired, and how will this make the researcher more successful? So now you have learned to use certain new instruments, so then it means that you can do better analysis than it was before. Somebody said what he was using this thing to do DNA analysis that took a month. Now they can do it in hours. So then it means that the fellowship has some relevance here. You have been able to do something more that will make your work easier or better. So this is what you are supposed to bring out clearly. And so it says here in this session, you should assess the impact of the research and training on the experienced researcher's career. Will it have some impact on his or her career, including any possible secondments, like they said. If you are going to have secondments will also help you have a practical knowledge of what actually you are doing. So if the chance is there for you to have secondments, please take it. Then the second part, the quality of the proposed measures to exploit. And this is one thing too that confuses people, exploitation and dissemination versus communication. This is, people mix it all the time. I mean, you see lots of, more than 50% always confusing what is it called, exploitation and then dissemination and then versus communication means. Exploitation, dissemination has to do with your peers. That's the dissemination and exploitation strategy is about results of the action, and it is targeted to the peers. So where do you disseminate? Where do you exploit? I mean, these are from what? Conferences, seminars, workshops that you organize with your colleagues, where you present the results of your research. So you use all the means available. Journals, what is it called? All forms of communicating to your peers. Through whatever, open access publications, that is very, very key. Don't forget to mention that because it's very, very, very important for the commission that you talk about open access, that you give open access to your data, your publications, and things like that. It's very, very crucial. You leave out on it, they will penalize you for that. So so here, dissemination and exploitation deals with how you communicate your research results to your peers. That's the scientific community, the industry, policy makers, commercial actors, and so on. And then the wider research and innovation community. And then it is very, very important, if there is a chance for you to commercialize your project, you should take cognizance of that, and very crucial. I mean, even if it doesn't affect your project, just mention it that, okay, there wouldn't be any intellectual property considerations for my project, but don't leave it blank. Mention it. And then I have a reference here that you can look at if you need. And then this guide, the NCP website, that's fantastic. That's a very guide that they've written. It's a very fantastic document. Use it if you can. And then, of course, then we come to communication. It's all about public outreach, how to communicate, how the EU has to see that the funding that is going into the research has some some usefulness. So you have to be able to tell the public that, okay, this is what we are using EU money for. So this is what communication is all about. And for communication, you have a lot of means of communicating your research results. You can have it at the base. You use social media, Facebook, LinkedIn, webinars like this one, TV, news and debates, newspapers, newsletters, everywhere that you can. Just get involved in public outreach. And the Marie Curie program is very, 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 it guides that aspect jealously, that they want you to be part of the public outreach program. So the Marie Curie Day, the Marie Curie Nights, the Marie Curie events should be part of it, and write it, that you take part in it. Don't leave it. Because just leaving that alone, you can miss 0.1 point, and it means a lot. So don't leave things like that. Add them to your communication strategy. It helps you. Just trying to rush through so that we can go faster at the time. And then the implementation too. Implementation, you all know, is 20%. But then it also means a lot. 20% out of, 80 you are out. Even 90 these days, you don't have a chance. So don't take this aspect also for granted. It's very, very important. And it's very, very simple. If you just follow simple guidelines, this is one of the simplest sections to write, actually. The people write just 3 lines, and that is it. And you don't get 5 for writing 3 lines. So here are the key issues here. Coherence and effectiveness of the work plan, appropriateness of the allocation of tasks, appropriateness of the management structures. This is more like cosmetic. You should be able to write this without much this thing. What you need to do here, the first part is that the coherence of the effectiveness, you have to describe. Just one statement of description of what each work package is all about is more than enough. But don't leave it. Describe the work package. If you have deliverables that are connected to each of the work packages, link them. Link them to the work package. And then the milestones, link them where it is also applicable. But don't leave them blank. Don't just leave it. Write something on it, describe them, say what they're about. And then if there are secondments too, you have to write something about it. And don't forget, a Gantt chart is just a must. You can't get 4.7 without a Gantt chart. It takes about some 10, 15 minutes to make it, but it makes a lot of difference to your score. So put the Gantt chart there. The Commission has even highlighted it, that a Gantt chart is necessary. So you have to put it inside your this thing. And then how you have here, you describe how the work plan and the resources mobilized will ensure that the research and training objectives will be reached. So you have to supposed to tell us why you are deciding to spend 1 year doing field work and then 2 months doing analysis and things like that. You just explain why these actions are taken. And then explain why the amount of person months is appropriate in relation to the activities proposed. That is also very important. And then the other one, that's the project organization. Here you come to the host organization. What are the structures that are available for you to use? Okay, we have the research administration office that will help. We have the finance office that will help. We manage the finance aspect. All those type of things, just mention them. Don't leave them. Mention project organization, management structure in the host institution. Contact your research administration people. Some of them can help you with some information on this. And then one other thing, risk, and then risk management is very, 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 very crucial. This is a research project, and if it has no risk, then it is no a serious research. So you are doing the research. You should be able to tell us what are the possible risks, and then tell us what are the contingent plans. Plan B, plan C, in case you don't get the data that you require, what are the alternatives? You have to do a risk analysis. And you don't get full marks, without doing a risk analysis. And then, of course, how are you going to monitor progress? And then how you interact also with your supervisor is also important. And then the institutional environment, this is where the infrastructure, the host institution counts. Offices, computers, libraries, museums, laboratories that you have access to, all that will be provided for you. Internet access, computer, all those things. This is where you mention them. So you mention what are the appropriate environmental infrastructure that are existing in your institution that will help you do your research. And then I've added this one, which is no longer part, but then it's always important to always competencies and experience and complementarity of the participating organizations, so that where you have global fellowships, whether there have been some collaborations between them already and things like that, then it gives more credibility to the whole process. And then how committed they are, the beneficiaries. That, of course, is in the annexes to the main this thing, but then you can always mention it if the need arises. So this is for the evaluation process, and just a few tips, quick ones. Well-written proposals, you use the grant writing principle. So address experts and non-experts, like I said. Don't assume that everybody evaluating your paper is an expert. I've evaluated from sociology to economics to whatever. You just mentioned, they are all under the social sciences. So you don't need to be an expert, but then depending on how the person is able to educate you, then you'll be able to understand what they are writing about. So write clearly. Wording is simple. Specialized words and abbreviations must be avoided as much as possible. And every page has at least, if you have the chance, where possible, put a diagram. Make the life of an evaluator easier. Not so many texts. It gets boring. You just think about it. You finish a day at work and then come and sit down. You are reading only text. and go straight to the point. Make the language simple. So every page, a figure where it's possible, and then written to communicate with all reviewers, not just the expert, like I said, and then use active voice too when you are writing. I mean, don't be too, Norwegians will say beskjeden. I mean, don't be too careful or something like that, but be active. Say you will do that, you will do this. I mean, create more confidence in yourself. And then use diagrams and visuals. And then time and planning is very important. So start early, write, rewrite, and then write again. After all, it's a game, so just treat it as such. That is a game. And the last one, to get familiar with some of these things, the European Charter for Researchers, the Code of Conduct for Recruitment of Researchers, Communicating AU Research. These are documents that you find online that you can use. So I think that's about it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Emmanuel. And yeah, we have, this is very useful, and I hope that you all will understand how, or had some feedback on how to write a good application. And yes, I was in Bergen this weekend. The weather was fantastic.
Yeah, it was more than fantastic.
But we know that it will be raining one day.
So this will be very handy.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Okay.
Is a slideshow?
Okay, because I have a special. What about full screen? Yeah. Okay. And now I'd like to introduce Masahito Tsibui, who is has very recent experience on how to write a successful application, because you got your grant 2 years? No, last year.
Yes, last year.
Yeah. So we are very happy that you are willing to share your experience, and I think, yes, you will present yourself, I think. Okay.
Yeah, thank you very much for your invitation and introduction. After I listened to all those instructions from those who are very knowledgeable about how to evaluate and how the Marie Curie actions are, I don't have much to add, actually. But what I could probably say a few words about is what I felt about writing those applications, and so that might be helpful for you, hopefully, especially for those who are thinking of applying for this year. Yeah, that's it. Okay, so a little, very briefly about me. I'm a evolutionary biologist. I am from Japan. I'm measuring huge antler of the Irish elk. That's a fossil deer from Pleistocene. It's in Vienna. It's very impressive, but I'm working something like this. I'm from Japan, so that means that the Marie Curie is really for everyone. Japan is very far away, and it's possible to get a Japanese person to do research in Norway. I did my PhD in Sweden, so I lived in Sweden for 4 years before I came to Norway. And I'm now 1.5 years, so right now. So last year, I was half year to 1 year after my PhD, so I'm kind of young career stage, so to speak. So some hard fact, that's basically, after I thought what I can tell about my experience, is I basically, those are the things, what I'm going to speak in the next 10 minutes or so is based on. So applied for this Marie Curie twice, so 2 years ago and last year. So 2 years, my score was not so great. I just looked up this evaluation sheet a few days ago because I didn't want to see that anymore after, after I received it. It was 68.8. That was not so impressive. And this year, or last year, I got 95.4, and I was successful. And the very important thing between these two scores are that in both of these cases, I applied for the same institution, I applied for the same supervisor, and the application, the contents of the proposal, that was a little bit different, of course, but it's very similar topic. I was not really changing much. So which really means that by what you write really matters. So if a very similar application to the same institution, same supervisor, that can give both an 68 and 95. That's a big difference, but it's all about what you write. So so there are 4 or 5 points, not many, that I want to really make point about. So the first thing is that everyone, I think, has a chance. It sounds very big thing to apply for the Marie Curie, and there are so many formalities and so on. But I think it's all about what you write and what you want to do and so on. So don't be intimidated. Everyone has a chance because very similar application can go 70 to 95. So that's very obvious that what you write really matters. And also, when I thought about what really was the difference between 2 years ago application and last year application, I think the largest difference was that I write so more clearly that this is about a training, not really doing very good research. Well, of course, to do a good research is very central to this call. But this is a training program, and also this is for only 2 years, and this is basically led by a researcher who doesn't have a lot of experience. So it is realistically not possible to do a huge research that's changed the world, right? That's not possible. Well, of course, if we want to do that, but that is technically not really possible, or some people may be able to do, but for many people it's not possible. But what is it for is, how do you use those 2 years to make yourself, maybe in 10 years, how do you make yourself in 10 years to do such a good research? So that's the kind of different standing point that I made from 2 years, my first application and my second application, and I think that was quite important. And also, from a person who just received a PhD, of course, everyone wants to stay, well, not everyone, but many people, I think, wants to stay in academia, and also wants to at least seek for a possibility to stay in academia. But when we really look at the number, statistics, it's not very realistic. I'm not really saying that people should quit science, but there, of course, is a possibility to do something outside of academia. And another thing that I made in my second round of application is that, well, I want to stay in academia, but of course, in the second time, I write like, okay, so what if I will change my mind in maybe 5 years for some reason, family reason, or whatever the reasons. If I find myself not really interested in science anymore, what I'm going to do? So I was a little bit more specific about what the training in this Marie Curie proposal is about for non-academic possibilities. And that, I think, is not very obvious for many people, young PhD holders, but I thought that was very important. And also, this is kind of repetitive for the last two points that I made, but it's very needs to be realistic. We cannot really write a proposal that we want to go to Mars tomorrow, right? So it's very important that to be honest and to be very humble for what is the resource that I have and what is the resource that the institution has, for instance, and what is very realistic to achieve in 2 years, which is not so long time, to be honest. So 24 months will go very quickly. So it is very important to be humble, realistic, honest, and think and write what you really can do. What do you think is absolutely clear that you are able to do? So I think that was also very important, and I was not so good in the first round, and I think I did it much better in the second time. And also this is after I listened to all of those formal part, so to speak, like institution and how to make a proposal to build up your career, or what is the institution, or what is the supervisor, and so on. That's, of course, as Emmanuel just said, it's very important. But it's about research, I think. And I think all of those kind of cosmetic things comes automatically if the research is there. And this doesn't come with the other way around. You don't do a research because the institution is there, right? We want to do the research for some reason, and the institution or some resources are somewhere. So the order is research first, I think, and then everything else, like institution or the other details, comes after research. So that's what I, at least from my point of view, that is what I always focused on. I tried to, which was not so easy, because after I read my proposal 100 times, it's start to be more nervous, like, okay, maybe I should be a bit flattering my institution now, University of Oslo is doing this good and that good, but that's, I think, is not so important. If your research is very good, if your research proposal is very solid, then that's how it is, evaluated very, very positively. So I think those are not, they are obviously not so much, because I'm also not so experienced, only twice, and I'm the sample size of one. But what I thought about my experience, there are 5 points that I summarize in this slide. The first is just very important. This is, I think, the most important thing, is that be optimistic. Everyone has a chance. How you write really matters, and it can really change the outcome. So be optimistic and write well, and try out best. So that's very important. And also from a very standpoint, or it's very important to realize that this is a training grant. So we don't really have to do a super science, actually. We just do what we can, and we make the proposal to make our life in 5 or 10 years maybe better. But that's not given. And also, I think it is very important to be realistic, which comes to think about non-academic career, because that is very realistically, we have to really think about that as well. And another realistic part is that we have to propose something that you can really do. And last but not least is that I think the research part, from my point of view, research is what we're going to do and what we want to do. So if you have a research idea, everything else comes along with that, and we shouldn't really go the other way around. And that's, I think, that's it for what I can tell. And again, thank you very much for your invitation. And I hope I may have a contribution in some way. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Masahito. I think you summed it up very good. The IF is about training, and it's not just about excellent research. And in order, you have to be good. You have to deliver good research. But the excellence part is measured on each of these criteria that you saw earlier on. And the basic thing that the European Commission wants is to train the best possible researchers to become mature researchers. So I think what you said was really helpful. And also that you need to do very well, but you need to be optimistic and, in a way, have fun. So thank you very much. I hope you won't need this too much this summer, but thank you for coming. Thank you. We have a few more minutes. I've been trying to follow the web stream a little bit. I've been trying to look at the chat and also to tweet, and that's at least one thing too much for me. So please excuse me if I haven't tweeted enough, if I haven't answered the chat. I hope still that both that you who have been here at least have been ignited to believe in that this is something that is possible to do. Before we end, perhaps we should open up for just a couple of questions in order to let our followers on the web stream also to hear. We should use the mic. Is everything crystal clear? No, it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be, because we know from experience that questions will come. And perhaps not now, but they will come eventually. And then you have the EU advisors, and you have the national contact points at the Research Council. And by the fact that I saw that several of those who follow the web stream are coming from countries outside of Norway, you should be aware that there are Marie Curie Actions contact points all over Europe and all over the globe, actually. But you find all your national contact points who can answer country-specific questions on the website of the participant portal. Now, any questions? We know that they will appear. Those who came on the chat, I tried to answer some. Some of the people chatting are actually answering the questions that came in, which is a relief for us. For example, we got a question about a Gantt chart. A Gantt chart is basically a chart that in a very visible way shows you what happens when. Okay, now we have a couple of questions. We'll take them.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Bruno Martins. I applied last year to the Marie Curie Fellowship and I didn't get it, so I'm planning to apply again this year. I wanted to ask you, in terms of output plan, you put a lot of emphasis, and maybe get your input as an evaluator as well. What does it mean in actual terms to be realistic? What are we supposed to deliver? What did you promise to do in terms of publications, etc.?
I think I will answer him, and I will give it to you. Well, I think I don't, to be honest, I don't exactly remember what I wrote, but I think what I wrote is basically about writing papers, scientific papers, to publish it. I think 2 or 3, not so many, actually. And also the other thing is that I am planning to develop a new statistical method, and I wrote to publicly archive the source code so that people can use. So those are 3-4 things. Yeah, 2-3 things maybe. So that's not too many, and 2-3 papers and 1 source code. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Okay. For those of you who have followed the web stream, we only have 1 camera, and I'm in it. Emanuel is going to answer, and we cannot do anything about the camera.
Okay. I think that, like what he said is right. I mean, but everything also depends on the stage at which you are. If you are just completing a PhD and then starting the Marie Curie, I mean, no one expects you to perform wonders. But if you have been in the process for some time, then they expect that the output should be realistic. I mean, it should be realistic at the level at which you are. So if you are going to have 2-3 publications at the Marie Curie stage, I mean, that is reasonably okay at this stage. And then, of course, like he said, I mean, and then we talked, one other thing that he also said was that the non-academic side, the complementary training is also very, very important, that you are going to acquire other skills outside academia. It's very entrepreneurship, application writing, grant application, IPR, ethics, gender issues. All these things are part of the things that you have to acquire during the Marie Curie process. They are complementary. They are not part of the DC, but then they are very, very important in determining whether you are going to get support. Like he said, Marie Curie gives you an alternative. If you don't find a path in academia, you should be able to find a path outside academia. And that is also part of the training that you should get.
Okay, then there is another question in the back, and again, we cannot do anything about the camera angle. Okay, please.
Yes. My name is Monica Lindbeck, and I'm a senior lecturer in history of religions. And I have a question about the assessment of risk. I'm planning on applying for an MSCA scholarship on a project about dealing with Islamic law and its implementation in courts in Egypt. And this is a country which is ripped by post-revolutionary conflict. How should I address such an issue in my application? Some scholars have been killed there in recent years because of the dire circumstances.
Well, that sounds like a very high risk, but still high gain project. I think Emanuel would probably...
No, I remember evaluating something like that. I mean, similar to what you are talking about. Okay, the case was in Iran, and Iraq. And there's someone who was going to do something on doing some analysis. And of course, some of the risk was the political situation. And then the risk of going into an area and start questioning, I mean, the various genders about what they face. I mean, you could easily end up being, killed or arrested or something like that. I mean, so those are some of the risks. And then what are the alternatives? I mean, some of them gave other alternatives, like they could use other similar regions as their main, more suitable regions or countries that they could use as alternatives if the situation gets worse or is not conducive for such research. So things like that, those are some of the analysis. Or even sometimes you may not even get the right people to question or to ask, I mean, the right subjects. So what are the alternatives? Then you have to find a more friendly country or something like that. So you already have the data, much of the data. Then you don't have so much of a problem. I mean, if you have some of the data, then you can just go ahead with it. I mean, of course, those are some of the risks. If you have already overcome the risk, then you have alternatives to it. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Manuel. I mean, it's important to understand that the EU is first and foremost interested in having results, and the risk that you need to describe shouldn't be that high, and especially if you're talking lives. I mean, it's important that you, in your case, I would say that it's important to not minimize, but at least lower the risks. Yes. Yes, I know that you have the data, but still, I mean, you have to have it on a balanced level. Okay, this is really tough. There's another question. Yes. Mariam.
Hello, my name is Mariam Gatrudan. I have two questions. Thank you very much for the very nice seminar and for the very fruitful information. One question is about communication and dissemination. I don't really understand the difference between the two. I'm an engineer, so for me, the way to convey our message is via articles in journals or conferences, and that would be, both of them. If I, for example, talk about scientific issues in my Facebook, then my friends will unfriend me. So I don't know what this means with the communication. And the other question is about the non-academic career, because actually I'm working in industry right now, and I have established my own business based on the idea of my PhD, and trying to do some further work about that. So I'm thinking of writing the proposal from my own company. I can also do it via my supervisor from my PhD or one other supervisor in NTNU. But my ambition is kind of, business development, commercialize the idea. But I get that, I'm kind of impressed that people are encouraged to go more for the non-academic careers, while the commercialization is a value. So I just want some guidance about which way should I take if I submit my proposal via NTNU or via my own small company. How I can have the higher chance.
Well, when it comes to the last question, I mean, you have to be connected to an institution with the possibility of supervising you. Doing it from your own company, I don't think that's viable, actually.
I'm going to Max Planck in Germany for.
Okay.
Yeah.
But still, I mean, then your own company is not really of interest, because it will be the Max Planck Institute, which is your host institution in Germany.
Then maybe I thought there should be also one supervisor in Norway.
No, not on a European fellowship. No.
Yes.
And having a Teflon brain, I can't remember your first question.
Communication and dissemination.
Right. Communication and dissemination, and the difference between those.
No, I think you were mixing two things. I mean, you were talking about what is it called, dissemination, and that is different from communication. That's what I was trying to specify in my talk. That dissemination, that is giving information, I mean, about your project or the results to your peers. I mean, conferences, workshops, seminars, publications, all those type of things. That's where you disseminate an exploitation. But communication is how you come down to me. I mean, to tell me what you are doing. I'm giving you. I mean, we are giving public money to you. You want to tell us what are you doing with the money? What are we getting from whatever it is that we are funding? So now you are going to tell us that, okay, your engineering, this is what you are going to achieve. This is what new. You are going to make it easier for me to be able to use a microphone instead of that, or use an electric car. That type of thing. That is what we want to see. That's what the public wants to know. So that's how you communicate your this thing. So using things like Facebook and whatever to communicate. Marie Curie has a nice, fantastic Facebook page where they put a lot of information. It's very, very, very interesting place where you can get a lot of interesting information about what people are doing. So you can use the same means. I mean, you don't necessarily have to put it on your own, but use the public one if that means.
Preferably the public one, because I know my friends on Facebook, they're not interested in these matters. So, okay, we'll have one last question. Two last questions. Thank you for those who are following us.
Hello, my name is Amela Karahasanovic. I'm coming from Sintef Digital. Now this is from the organizational point of view of host institution. What Teresa described was fantastic. I would be happy to copy it and take this experience to Sintef and make the same thing. But now we are in May, and we have a very interesting, exciting new project where we want to have new people from outside, postdocs, helping us. What would you say? What is the most important we can do quickly now from as a host institution to assure to get funding to help these candidates, or to do it together? What would be the most important?
Use your network. I mean, if you have a network, project collaborators, use them, contact them. Those are outside Norway. If you have collaborators, contact them, tell them you have a project, you need postdocs. I mean, they will find them from their various institutions for you. That's what I always encourage most people to do. Use your network. That's the easiest, that's the simplest, and that's the fastest. I mean, going around to find them single-handed at this time is a little bit late. I mean, then you have started the NTNU style. That is somewhere in December. But now, I mean, if you have to, then you need your own network. I mean, use them or collaborators.
Yes, I agree. And of course, you use your NCPs.
Øyvind Einas, Veterinary Institute. Similar to that last question, I feel like asking how much involvement should a host, supervisor, or coordinator be in the application itself? I mean, is there a suggested balance of input on the application? What is the experience with successful applications, for example? I mean, should there be a 50-50 input on the candidate and the supervisor, or what is the suggested workload?
Yes, I understand. I mean, there is really no good answer to that. But let's say that those proposals with minimal contribution from the supervisor is almost guaranteed to fail. Well, almost. I mean, some candidates are really great and really autonomous and self-going. But I would say that what you need to help your candidate with is, for example, the description of the infrastructure. I mean, the physical infrastructure. You need to describe how the Veterinary Institute has contributed within EU projects, that you have the that you as a potential supervisor also has supervised other postdocs earlier, so that the evaluator really believes that this is a good match. But you also need to help the fellow to understand the state of the art, and that the research, the scientific content is really on top, because a young postdoc may not be completely aware of what is the state of the art these days. So, I mean, the main thing is that, I mean, it's not possible to say a certain percentage. This is about the collaboration of an individual project, but with two contributors, really.
And it should be materialized already in the application.
Yes. Yes.
I think what Per is saying is very...
Just one second.
Sorry. I think what Per is saying is very, very important, because writing, you can't write the application alone. I mean, the best applications always comes from those who actually sit and collaborate with their supervisors, discuss the project, discuss the process, and then they write together. That's always the best ones. I mean, because you can't describe an institution. If, let's say, he's coming from Japan to Oslo, what does he know about Oslo? What are the institutional infrastructures? What are the collaborators? What network? What competencies can we get? What extra, training or complementary training can he get from Oslo? No idea. Somebody has to help him. Then the administrative arrangements and things like that within the institution, they are not known to him. So somebody needs to collaborate with him and be able to give him that type of information. So there's no, formula, but then you see the necessity in when you are going to write, that the more you interact with the institution, your potential host institution, the better you are able to produce an application.
Okay. We'll allow for one question, and then we need to stop. I see the web stream is going on still. So thank you.
Hi, my name is Nikki Gaitani. I'm going to resubmit at NMBU. My question is related with 3.2, which is about the appropriateness of the allocation of tasks and resources. Actually, last year, it wasn't very clear to me what to write there. Okay, and I did a table with the work breakdown and the tasks and the person months per task. But now you also mention as an evaluator, which is very useful to know, that it's good there to describe why we decide to spend the time. But how do you want to see this structure in a text? To explain in words, I decide to spend 3 months taking measurements like this, and then I'm going to do this modeling. But I don't know how to structure. It's only a paragraph, but I know it's really important to know the structure in each paragraph. And there it wasn't very clear.
Sometimes you realize that just simple statements is more than enough to explain. I mean, like when you are going to say that, okay, you are going to spend 6 months, taking or interviewing. Why do you need 6 months? Okay, you can say, okay, because I'm going to interview about 30 people, and then I need this, that to do it, or I need a student to help me do that. I mean, things like that. I mean, just mention the process. I mean, don't leave anything that, okay, I'm going to do this and then leave it. Just say why you are going to do it.
Yes, but we have already described
Yeah. And then was there any negative comment about it? Yeah, you said you wrote it before. So did they get?
But I wonder what to mention at this particular paragraph to repeat. No.
Okay, we can just discuss that after. Yeah.
Yes, yes. I think we have to, because, I mean, all projects are individual, and I think you are at an advanced level, so we can discuss it afterwards. I would like to thank Masahito and Teresa and Torbjörg and Emanuel for bringing your expertise and your experiences in the Marie Curie IF. And as I said, I think the questions are beginning to come. So please feel free. Also, those of you who are watching the stream, I see that we still have 21 viewers online, to send the questions to us, and we will try to answer them if we can. If there are things that are of general interest, we might just include it in the email that we are going to send to all of you who are registered in order to send you the presentations. So thank you for your patience. I think we'll just stop by this and have a nice 8th of May, Liberation Day in Norway, wherever you are. Thank you.